Welcome to the Bite Back Morning Drive with me, Jon D'Agostino from D'Agostino and Associates. I'm going to talk to professionals about how they handle the potholes and curves without the crash and burn. They're going to share how they make the journey the most important part of their lives. So buckle up, because here we go. Good morning.
Good morning, John. How are you?
Good morning. I can't believe you're Vic to me. I think you're Vic to most everybody, but I know you're Victor too. Who calls you Victor?
It was on my birth certificate, John. That's all I know. Maybe my wife when she's mad at me.
I've heard her refer to you as Victor, so
Yeah.
I'm going to say she's the one.
That never happens, though. So, you've heard that, and it must have been just a once in a lifetime Victor.
It's a
But
once
it's
in a
mostly
lifetime.
Vic.
It's even your kids call you Vic. It's
Yes.
from working with you, you know?
Yes.
And I had to make a promise. This will not get political. We cannot talk about politics, okay?
I agree. No politics.
Okay, no politics. But yeah, good morning. It's great to have be able to talk to you like this. And you and I can talk probably for hours and hours about 1,000 things. We can probably cover the Yankees, the Mets, pizza, life,
all
family,
good things.
the best
all good
things. So let's cover them all, okay?
Sure.
Yankees or Mets this season? Who's it going to be?
Well, after seeing Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, Aaron Judge for USA, Juan Soto for the Dominican team, boy, they both look outstanding. I think they're both going to have good seasons. And I think I've told you this before. I'm a Mets fan because my mom was a Mets fan. But if the Yankees are playing anybody but the Mets, I would root for the Yankees. So I like New York.
Okay. Exactly the same, exactly the same, but different in that I grew up a Mets fan. First baseball card team, 69 Mets, Cleon Jones, Tommy Agee, all those guys. My dad was a Yankee fan. He got season tickets during those late 70s years. I was a Reggie fan, so I became a Yankee fan, but I never stopped rooting for the Mets. So I'm a New York fan too. And I never understood the concept of diehard Yankee fan means you hate the Mets, and diehard Met fan means you hate the Yankees. But I get it. I guess, I get it, but I don't get it. Sort of.
Yeah.
You're a New Yorker.
If you're a New Yorker and the Yankees are on, and you're a sports fanatic and you live in New York and you grew up, right, a sports fan, you want the Mets to succeed. It's good for baseball. It's good for the city. It's good for everything. As I want the Yankees to succeed. And I think today, the Mets' new owner is spending some money finally, and they have a team, and it's nice to see that. And the Yankees always seem to be in the mix somehow. They're just an iconic kind of always there baseball team.
But it comes down to more than the Aaron Judges and all that. It comes down to that team. And the other thing that we have in common is we built teams,
right,
in our lives, in our businesses, and we also, interestingly, kind of did the reverse thing where, you went to law school and joined the family business. I went to law school and got away from the family business, which is interesting. I'm just curious because we never really did talk about that, and I'm just curious, what happened? What made you make that decision that this was your calling? To be in the restaurant business.
Right. So, as you know, my mom and dad were in the restaurant business. My dad started his first restaurant in 1963 in Newark, New Jersey, Rallo's Pizzeria. And he met my mom right before that time because my mother's father had a bar. He was a pharmacist, but he had a bar that was open late night. And so everybody from the restaurant business ended up in his bar. He was the only guy open, and that's where he met my mom. So in 63, they opened Rallo's Pizza, and I basically was born in that pizzeria. I was born in 64, so my whole life was in the restaurant business. And they went from the pizzeria to Rallo's restaurant and then to other restaurants. And my mom and dad knew how hard the restaurant business was and made my brother and I both go to law school, because they wanted us to be lawyers. And So we both graduated law school.
What did you want in law school? You're in law school. You're thinking one day I'm going to be picking a jury, I'm going to be trying cases, or are you thinking I'll give this a shot, I'll see how it goes, but I have the restaurant business to fall back on? Or are you thinking I'll do this to make my parents happy and proud, but my calling is going to be the restaurant business? Like, where was your mind?
So I'll tell you, I used to. So when I was in law school, I lived at my parents' house in Franklin Lake. So I used to go to Newark to Seton Hall early in the morning to beat the traffic, and I would get there, and downstairs in where the old law school was on Raymond Boulevard, they had a cafeteria, and so the guy who ran the cafeteria had known my dad from the restaurant business, and he was unorganized. And I used to get there, and my dad, like, why do you go to school so early? I'm like, I'm helping your buddy. I forget the guy's name. I think his name is Joe. I'm helping Joe. He's so unorganized. He's like, you're supposed to be reading your books and studying, and you're in the cafeteria helping this guy put out egg sandwiches. I'm like, that's what I'm there early because I beat the traffic. So even in law school, I had those bits of like, I want to be in the kitchen, and I did well in law school. I'm still of counsel of a law firm.
Right.
And it's just, I couldn't picture myself doing that every day,
Right.
like in an
Right.
office. It just like wasn't for me. If I had to, I think I could have, but it just wasn't for me. So I got back into the restaurant business. And likewise, my brother went to law school also, and he's in the restaurant business. So
Right.
we both went to law school.
So you grew up with, developing that skill set, and somewhere along the way it became your passion. Because let's face it, if it's not your passion, you're not doing it. You're not excited about it. And just for the record, I asked AI, because I've built, similarly with me, I was in construction. I was a laborer since I'm 13 years old. Every summer I was on the job site. Every summer I was doing something, and every summer I was being groomed to take my dad's place to run his construction company. And that's just what I thought I was going to do, until I just realized I just wasn't happy. I just wasn't happy in the business. I convinced myself first, hey, maybe because I'm outside, I'm a laborer, I'm probably in the best shape of my life, but this is not what I love. When I get inside, it'll be so much better. I'll have an office. I'll, be in the business part of the business. But even working with uncles and cousins inside, it didn't thrill me. It didn't get me excited to
Right.
go. So I figured I'd go to law school to be a lawyer for the company, and that excited me, that thought, until I just decided, because of my dad's situation with his injuries, the injury part of law really interested me. But I got to tell you, even though I jumped ship from this firm right out of law school at 26, and I never looked back. I asked AI if I should open a restaurant. You know what it told me? It told me 20% of the restaurants fail in the first year, and over 50% fail within 5 years. And I'm looking at you, and I'm like, this guy, he's open, and he runs what, like 4 restaurants?
Yeah, 4 restaurants, soon to be 5. And I think AI is absolutely correct. Many people get into the restaurant business. And, I, at a young age, worked with my dad, and I worked in the restaurant. Even while going to law school, we opened a new restaurant, and I was very involved in the restaurant. So, basically my whole life, my whole adult life, I was in the restaurant business. Even as a child, like we were
Yeah.
in the restaurant, and I tell this story, like I grew up in this pizzeria, and when I was young, there was always flour around the pizzeria and stuff, and I had flour on my shoulders, and at a young age, people thought I had dandruff, and it was flour from living in a restaurant. Like I really lived in a restaurant. And when I first met my wife, and I would come home at night, you know, you stink like a restaurant. Like you smell like the food. Back then people smoked. You were allowed to smoke in
Of
restaurants.
course.
Like your
Yeah.
clothes. Like I used to take my clothes off in the garage because like you smell like a restaurant. So like it's embedded. I think it's my DNA, genetics.
Yeah, but what takes that, uh, to a successful restaurant? Like I look at your restaurants, and to me, it's like a box of crayons. You're all different colors, or different flavors. And sometimes, my wife and I are we love all of them,
Right.
and we know we're not even biased because I was going to restaurants before, I even really knew you that well. So,
Right.
but do we want this? Last night I had Birravino. We were in Red Bank for something, and we're like, let's pick up Birravino. We actually brought it home, or one of the other restaurants. But what do you think? I know I have my opinions, and I think we're probably aligned with our opinions as well as far as what makes it work. Obviously, you got to put a team together, right? You got to hire the right people. You agree?
100%. I mean, but both any business, I mean, what you do on a large scale, what I do in the restaurant business, right? We're only as good as our team, right? From the person answering the phone to the person, like they say when you
Greeting,
walk.
greeting your guests.
Well, it goes further than that. In the restaurant business, they say if you drive into a parking lot and the parking lot's dirty or the dumpster doors are open, right? People have an impression immediately. Is this restaurant clean? Is like, what's going on there? Then you walk in the door, some young lady or young man says, "Hello, how are you today? What do they look like? Are they groomed? Do they have do they look nice?" They're the first impression, right? And it goes through every step of hospitality and service, even to the extent the last thing that we do in the restaurant is have a cup of coffee. Is the cup of coffee hot? Is it warm? Is the milk cold? Do they have the right sugar? Right? How was that taken care of? That's the last step. And oftentimes, people can't link together all the steps necessary to make a restaurant, number one, consistent, and that consistency leads to success. And I think with your business, it's kind of the same. You have a reputation of handling customers. They trust D'Agostino Associates. They trust you as an attorney first. And then from that trust, you're in a position where you have to put people in place, other attorneys, other staff, that they feel the same way about when you hand off a case to somebody else. It's the same
So
as
you said
somebody coming to a table, and it's a reflection of you or I, every table, every client, right? So it's important that we have those standards set up.
you said the word service, and it's probably the most frustrating part of my business. And it's all part of this word that we use, in our generation called branding, right? It's all about branding, and it starts with you, starts with me, and then you expand that brand to your staff, the people, and the service comes into play differently with us, but really it's the same because it's an experience. We're creating an experience. You're creating, this experience. Somebody's going to, in their mind, think, I want that experience again tonight, next week. If I bring friends, we're going to get that same experience that we get every time we go to the River Point Inn. I know what that experience is going to be. I know the experience when I go to Birravino, what it's going to feel like, what I'm going to feel like when I'm sitting down. It's going to be different. I know it's going to be different. And in the law practice that I have and I've built, it's, greeting people. They're coming to me. Nobody wants to have to go to a lawyer or a doctor or anything. If they're in my reception area, there's a problem, right? They're injured, they're hurt, they're out of work, they're in pain. They're trying to figure out how to get compensated, how to pay the bills. Let's create a good experience. Let's greet them with a smile. Let's offer them a cup of coffee. Let's see them right away, not have them sit around for an hour to see an attorney. Let's get them in right away. Let's make sure when they leave, they feel that they hired the right firm and they're confident that things are going to get better. And then let's return their phone calls. When they leave a message, let's make sure we answer their questions so that when their case is done and we're handing them that check, they can feel confident referring their friends and their neighbors and their relatives to us because we're going to give them the same experience. And that's probably the most frustrating part that I have in running my practice is getting staff, getting my team to share um, that passion for experience or exceptional experience. Because I always say, like, look, we can set the bar here, but why set the bar here if we can set it here and just reach for that, And I'm always trying to reach for that, which is a blessing and a curse, right? Because you're never really happy enough, but you know, um, but it's better than the alternative, right?
Yeah, I think we're both fortunate that, like, with you, you have your daughter and your son, right? And they understand that standard at a young age. I have my son, my brother, my first cousin, and they understand the standard that we set, right? It's very hard to get people to care as much as the owner of the company or the founder of the company, right? And if we can instill that,
Right.
most of the times we can ensure success. But it's difficult. Like, that doesn't come easy. We work on that every single day.
And it can be just the opposite also, because I saw firsthand my father's construction company. He had 7 brothers, 2 sisters, right? But the brothers were all involved in the company. A lot of nephews, a lot of cousins, and not everybody had that passion. Not everybody had that work ethic. Not everybody showed up on time. Sometimes family take advantage. Sometimes family feel, I'm family. I can get in a half an hour late, or I can leave an
Right.
hour early. And I try to instill that in my kids also. You got to work harder than everybody else. You got to set the example for everybody else. If attorneys are pulling into the parking lot, at 8:30, 8:45, you got to be here 8:15, 8 o'clock. When they pull in, let them see your car here. You don't pull in and see their car here. And these are just things that, by the way, I'm not just preaching. I was in the office at 6 a.m. Early. I was every department, right? I was drafting. I was licking the stamps. I was the one who was going to court and coming back and returning phone calls. So I know what every department has to do. And your business, I couldn't even imagine. My father, who had, his whole life was in construction since he's 10 years old. He had a dream of opening a restaurant. He opened one in Staten Island called Anthony's Bay Marina on Bay Street. It failed miserably. Bad location, number one. Hired the wrong people, number two. And he used it as this was his place to hang out. So he didn't take it seriously,
Right.
though. I still have a menu. I actually found a menu in my garage in a box that I'm actually putting in a frame. It's just because it actually was a good memory for me, because I remember how excited he was about it. But it was destined to fail miserably. But yet you keep getting it right. So I'm here to say officially, like, I'm ready. The next restaurant, I'm here. You want a good partner? But I really do respect that, because I know the only way, I truly believe that you can get rich lots of ways. You can inherit money, you can win a lottery, but the only way to be successful is to put in the work, put in the time. I just don't know anybody out there who's successful at what they do without putting in the time to get there.
Every single person I know that's successful, they put in the time. They worked. It's not overnight. My dad used to say, people think success is easy. Those people, it's like stepping in quicksand. You sink every single time, right? So you have to put in the work. You have to understand what that entails. And people enter businesses and they think because Jon D'Ag is successful, he's a lawyer and has a nice, beautiful practice, or Vic Rallo has a restaurant, or a guy has a tire business that is crushing it, or a car dealership. They're crushing it, right? They're doing very well because whoever was the founder, whoever started that business, put in the work and set up the standard. And I think standard is a really important word in business, because we set the standard. Like you said, you were there at 6 o'clock in the morning. They see your car first, right? So they see my car first. Or if the chef is not there, Vic can fill in and cook or wash dishes or whatever it takes, right? John can still, you can still write a brief, do the research, right? To win a case successfully. Do you have to do that every day? No, but people know that you can, and that's important.
Not only that, but I'm not going to step over a piece of paper on the floor in the reception area, or a paper clip or a rubber band. I'm going to pick it up because I want the reception area to look right. I'm going to make sure everything looks right, everything feels right, because again, it goes back to that experience. And I tell my staff, I don't care if you're the file clerk, I don't care if you're the trial attorney. You're an equal in my eyes. I'm a team player. I don't care if you play right field or second base, or everybody is equal in my eyes, and everybody has to do their job. That's how I treat everybody, and act like you're the owner of this firm. That's what I tell my entire staff. Act like you're. It's not about money. It's about, caring about, having pride in where you work. This is where we work, and so, there's a certain degree of luck. I'm sure you'll admit there is a certain degree of luck. People have better luck than others. Some people have bad luck. Sometimes you can have good luck, but the harder you work, the luckier you get. We both heard
Right.
that. I'm never, look, I did well in college. I did, well enough in law school. But I'm never going to be the smartest guy in the room, but try to out hustle me. That's what I say. Try to out hustle me. Try to wake up before me. I'll wake up 4 in the morning. I'll stay up till, 2 in the morning. I don't get a lot of sleep. I don't know about you. I have a feeling you don't get a lot of sleep either.
No, but you know what, Dag? What I've learned is that smart, right? We are smart because maybe we weren't the smartest kids in our class and we weren't number one in the class and valedictorian or valedictorian, but our smarts come from a lot of things, right? Right? So our smarts come from life experiences. We've had a lot of those. Our smarts come from what we learned in school. Our smarts come from things we learned from our significant others. Our smarts come from the ability to meet in our positions great people, right? So we've built our kind of like our education is always ongoing. And I think like,
Absolutely.
I think people will look back at us, the people that we went to law school with, or like those guys were just average students. But today they look and say, well, these guys are really smart. They figured it out. And a lot of people that are really, really smart sometimes never figure it out because like they don't have that common sense, that wherewithal, that street knowledge that kind of we grew up with that has helped us, our practices or our businesses immensely. So I think we are, and I'm not tapping us on the shoulder or, on the back, but I think we are smart, but in a different way than most people because we had to be smart because every risk, every decision was on these shoulders, not on anybody else's.
And I think the word risk is important because we took chances. We made mistakes. We learned from our mistakes. The people who have said to me, oh, this guy, I've had people introduce, oh, this guy, he's a marketing genius. He's an advertising, they didn't see the 100 things I tried that failed.
Right.
When I was on shopping carts in supermarkets and it failed, or when I tried this or tried that and it failed. And I eventually kept trying things, kept trying to find the things that will connect with people until finally, landed on the right path that worked, continuing to build our brand along the way. But you know what? Like I said, we can talk for hours now about any one of these things, but I do want to cover a couple other things because I do admire some other things about you. I love, and that's what this is about, this podcast. It's about people who are professionals who've also figured out not just how to be successful at what they do, but successfully handle their health. We're getting older. We have health challenges. We have passions outside of what we do to sustain those passions. So talk to me about that for a minute. Like, what are the challenges like for you with your health? Because I know you were fiercely competitive, back in the day with bicycling and things like that. And it wears on your body. And I played every sport imaginable. It wears on your body. And now here we are, we're no longer Supermen, right?
Right.
But yet we still want to do all the things we love to do. So how are you handling that?
I mean, getting old is part of life. I mean, I always said as I was aging and I had children, like I want to be there. I want to be able to run next to my kid if he wants to run a 5K or whatever. So I always kept in shape. Unfortunately, I abused my body, and now I realize that abuse, maybe if I had to do it again, I would do it slightly different. I've learned a lot along the way about recovery and about how to take care of yourself and nutrition and all those things that are super important if you want longevity. And unfortunately, when I was young, I neglected some of that stuff, which I wish I had taken care of. But, I will continue to do whatever it takes to be active and healthy. And a lot of people just quit. Right? Quitting is not an option. Right? So let's figure it out. So
Well, I feel the
I
same
figured
way.
out.
You've got two choices, right? And only one of them really works and gets you somewhere. The other one is, wake up,
Right.
eat cake, and do nothing. Just
Right.
get fat, feel like crap, and get sick and die. A lot
Yes.
sooner.
No. Yeah. I mean, let's figure it out. And do things change? 100%.
And also
Right.
your passions. I mean,
Right.
you still surf.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm in Puerto Rico now trying to catch a wave. I mean, it's one of the, it's
Are
like
you
when,
sitting on a surfboard right now? Are you sitting on a
uh,
surfboard?
I,
No, okay.
I have a surfboard on the wall in the back, but like when I had back surgery, and when I had back surgery, I said to the doc, he's like, "Where do you want to go from here?" I'm like, "I just want to be able to keep surfing."
Yeah.
And at 62 years old, like it's one of those passions. Like, and if if I lost that, I would be unhappy. I would understand it, but
Yep.
I'm gonna not quit, and I'm gonna try to be flexible, and I'm gonna try to keep my balance and keep my body in
Beautiful.
good enough shape that I can continue to do that.
Yeah, I love it. And I mean, since we've covered so many positive aspects of life, I mean, because you and I are exactly the same age, basically, right? 61 years old. We've lived through so many great things. We've seen, we've seen the Man on the Moon. We've seen the Beatles break up. And we've survived it all, everything, through it all.
COVID, I mean,
COVID, the towers.
in our COVID was like in our
I mean,
lifetime, it was unbelievable.
pandemic. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy, but we're still standing and we're still moving. So I'm gonna ask you this one thing, and we kind of touched on it before with the kids, because I'm always curious about this. And I say success leaves clues. I mean, you look around, you see who's successful, what are they doing right, um, and and whatever it is, in life, you can take a look and see what they're doing, and you can try to at least head in that direction if you want to. I think about my kids, and I think about, and I'm sure you're setting an example for your kids. So if your kids are going to learn something, if you're going to leave something in the legacy of who you are and what you've accomplished to your kids, what do you hope that they look at you and they learn as an important life lesson for how they should live their lives?
I think we both instilled a strong work ethic in our children, and because they saw us work. It was like they saw us go to work every single day. But I would say I've instilled in my children that everything is possible, and if you work hard enough, you can achieve anything that you want to do. And just be careful what you're looking for, because sometimes you say, I want a big house, or I want this car, or I want to be able to do this or that. And there's something there's with all of those things, there's the next thing.
Oh,
So just be careful what you want, but everything is possible. Everything. I look at our kids, and specifically I look at my daughter, who went to Michigan and then to Columbia Journalism School. And after 8 months of working at a Columbia Journalism, she quit a journalism job and said, "I'm going on my own. I'm going to do this." And I said to her, I'm like, she said, "Will you help me for 3 months with rent, et cetera, et cetera?" And I said, "Absolutely." And I said, "But first I want to know what your dream is, what you're going to
what's the plan?
do,
What's the plan?
and what's the plan." And she had a plan, and she manifested that plan, and she's living that plan, and she created, she
Something amazing.
created a brand based on herself because she believed it, and she created it by herself. I couldn't create it because it's her brand. She worked really, really hard. So, and everyone was like, "Oh, that's impossible." No,
Yeah, not
no,
impossible.
no, no.
No,
It's not impossible,
know what
right?
you
It's
want.
impossible if you refuse to work for it, but it
Right,
is possible, right?
right,
So
right.
I changed it impossible to is possible,
I
right?
love it. Yep,
Depending on how hard you want to work.
right. I agree. Amen to that. And and more importantly, or just as importantly, I know your kids, my kids, they're all successful in the sense that they wake up, they go to work, and they do it. They do whatever it is. They're at it, and they're reaching for success. But the other part of this is they're good kids. They have good hearts. They're good people. We raised good people, and that's not always easy because you can be successful, but to be kind and work hard, to be caring and work hard, is a great balance. So, man, like I said a couple of times now, we could just keep going, but I don't want to keep you from surfing, and I got to get on. And
I'm gonna definitely go catch a wave. And
I'm going
now
to
I'm
catch a
in,
train. I'm catching a train to our Manhattan office right now, and I got clients to see in 2 hours. So,
I'm catching a wave, but I'm gonna be inspired by our conversation, our friendship, our children,
oh,
and
oh yeah,
all of the great things that we have in life. And again, it doesn't come easy. It comes from hard work. And if I could tell anybody, any kid, any person, that everything is possible, it's not impossible. It just depends how hard you want to work.
Amen. Look, I'm gonna shamelessly plug my firm. Look at that. I just
D'Agostino
realized.
Lewis.
I figure I've been sipping my water this way. I don't know what I'm doing. But listen, man, have a great day.
You
And
too.
listen, soon. I'm waiting for the invitation. I want to be in Puerto Rico one of these days. Not at
What?
the El San Juan. I want to be at the
The Casablanca, that's
no,
the name of my house. You're
Casablanca.
here.
I want to be
You're
there.
here.
All right,
Good.
buddy. See you later.
Thank you. Have a
Bye.
great day.
You
Bye.
too. See you. You've been tuning in to the Bite Back Morning Drive with your host, yours truly, Jon D'Agostino. You can find this show on all major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website at www.daglawteam.com. Thank you for your positive reviews, your comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others. We'll see you on the next Morning Drive. D'Agostino Law Bite Back